Hello, beautiful, magical beings. It is I, just Rose, your ADHD coach, coming to you from Portland, Oregon, to talk to you about what's been going on in my world. I have been gone. I was on a trip for the past 3 weeks back home to Ohio. I had a wedding to attend, and I made a huge trip of it, and I got to see a lot of people. And what's really interesting, the thing that I've been really reflecting on today is a lot about growth and transformation. And I'm going to read you a snippet of my journal entry from this morning because I find it really interesting. Um, so I have a friend who asked me 2 questions when I returned yesterday. She asked me because she found out I was gone for 3 weeks, and she's like, okay, who is your most transformed friend? And who were you like, wow, you are so different? And as I was reflecting on that in like a very fast 10 seconds, I was like having a hard time deciding who that might be, because I'm the people that I went to see, if I was really close friends with them, I'm in contact with them all the time. So the surprise isn't there, and I know their transformation. And then other people that I'm not as connected with didn't feel like super transformative. But what I realized was it's me. So that's what I'm going to read. I am the answer to those questions. I have changed the most. I am the most different. I responded differently when things didn't go as planned. I responded differently when my family said things that used to trigger me. I responded differently when hanging out with my ex, and I was able to see how insecure I used to be. And I bounced back more quickly when I had a tough scenario come up with a person. And I was more open and fun with a bunch of strangers at a table at a wedding I went to across the country for. I am my most transformed friend. I am my most transformed friend. So just those words, I'm like bringing tears to my eyes because, one, I have a recognition that I am my own friend, which is really, really cool and a huge transformation for me because I used to not like myself. I didn't love myself. I would not have called myself my own friend. And over the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, I have done a lot of work to become friends with myself, to enjoy myself. So the fact that I can call myself a friend, to me, is really beautiful. And recognizing that I am so transformed is another huge deal because it is not easy to see our own transformation. It is not easy to see the growth that we have because we live with ourselves all day, every day. It's just like, if you've ever witnessed, if you are in the presence of a child as they're growing, you don't necessarily see the little millimeters of their growth. But all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, wow, they're so much taller. But if you are a person that hasn't seen this child in a year, you'll be like, whoa, look at how much taller this kid is. You've grown so much. And it might not even have to be a year, but you can see the growth more contrasting than if you were with the person every single day. And it's the same with ourselves. I grow all the time, little by little, every day. And I've learned to acknowledge those little growths, and celebrate them. And that allows me to be able to zoom out and see the larger picture too. But it is something that I've had to practice doing. And I practice doing it for others, and I practice doing it for myself. So the fact that I can say, I am my most transformed friend is because I know myself more than I know any other person. So the contrast, right? So on one hand, like I'm with myself every day, all day, which means that I know myself the most. So the fact that I can say that I am so transformed is really beautiful, and to recognize how the interactions have shifted. And I've gone from Ohio and come back and gone and come back. I've lived in different places. And going back to see family and friends is always a little different. But this go around, there was so much joy and gratitude because of all the transformation I've had. So, like I mentioned, some of the situations that I've encountered while I was there, an older version of me would have reacted very differently. So when things don't go my way, or the way that I planned or thought, or the expectations that I had, uh, a past version of myself would have made that ruin my whole day or my whole trip, and I would have allowed that to be the case. And instead, I would be like, okay, this is what's here. How do I accept it? How do I find the joy and the goodness in what is here right now? Because there is purpose in what is here right now. And I'm not supposed to control everything. And that whole release of control is so hard. If you have ever worked with me one-to-one, you know one of the things that I talk about in the beginning of our working together is this concept of control, safety, and acceptance. And is it acceptance? My words are like going so fast that they're fleeing very fast. Approval, that's what it is. Approval, safety, and control. And we're taught, as humans, we're taught how to get those things outside of ourselves. We're taught to get approval and security outside of ourselves. But the reality is we can only get those within ourselves. And when we're lacking approval and security, especially at a young age, we often replace that with trying to control things. That's a way to help keep us safe, a way to help get the approval that we so desire. And that has definitely been in my story, is learning to just control the things around me. And some of that was taught behavior because of my family and the way that they have also were lacking approval and safety in their lives, and they use control instead. And it is beautiful to be in a space that I can release that more quickly. It's not gone completely all the time. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. And it's so interesting because in the journey of transformation and growth, we are often looking to be like, I've arrived. I've gotten to a place. But the thing is, growth and transformation is forever. And so while maybe I have pinpoints of arrival of like, oh, I got to this milestone, right? Like learning, there are milestones in a baby, like taking their first step, saying their first word, eating their first food, et cetera, et cetera. There are milestones in the transformation and growth process. And so I've hit different milestones, and this feels like another one for me, a milestone of recognizing the transformation, seeing it very clearly. A very, very clear example of this. One of the things that I got to do on my trip is see my ex-husband. If you don't know this already, my ex-husband and I are still friends. I've written a whole book about our relationship called I Don't Hate My Ex-Husband. Shameless plug. Here, look, you can get it on Amazon. And I haven't seen him since October of 2019 because we both went to a mutual friend's wedding. And then I moved to Oregon, and so I haven't seen him. And he's moved. He was living in Indiana, and now he lives in Georgia. And so this is the first time we've seen each other in a while. And we were hanging out, talking about things and listening to music and playing a game. And I think this is going to sound like a very silly story, but it makes me so happy and helps me understand again the huge growth that I've made. But one of the songs that came on was by Sarah Bareilles. Now, if you know my ex-husband, Morris, he loves Sarah Bareilles. When we were dating, he would talk about like if Sarah Bareilles like asked him to marry him, he would do it in a heartbeat. It's like he just loves her. And I remember when we were dating, and anytime her name would come up when we were married, how like fearful I would get, how insecure I would feel, like that safety and acceptance stuff came up, right? I would feel not emotionally safe because like, oh, this person is going to steal him away from me. Even though like logically that doesn't really make any sense. And whatever. But there was so much insecurity within me that I would just be bothered by it. I wouldn't say anything about it much, but it was like this internal thing. And so, yes, we're no longer together, but it was interesting how when that came up again, I was able to breathe different. There was no jealousy, there was no insecurity, there was no anything. It was just like this full recognition of how insecure I used to be versus where I am now, and the confidence that I hold in my being, which is so different. And that landed so beautifully for me because I am so transformed. I am. I'm so transformed. And I'm so grateful for that recognition of like 10 years ago, just the name of an artist of a person he's never met would have like twisted my insides up so much. And now I'm like, that's just he gets to be who he is. And every person gets to be as they are, who they are. And nobody can threaten my being unless I allow them to. And I think in relationships, we often allow things to threaten us, words to threaten us, emotions to threaten us, and the stability of our relationships. When if we would allow ourselves to be fully grounded in who we are and know the truth of who we are and the being of who we are, we cannot be moved. We cannot be moved when we are so secure in ourselves, when we get approval from ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we can be friends with our own being and recognize who we are, nothing can shake us. The circumstances outside of ourselves are not going to move us one way or another because we are so deeply rooted into the earth, or we're that mountain. Like you cannot just pick up a mountain and move it, right? It cannot be easily shaked. Or if you think about it you could think about it in any of the elements, right? If it's a small body of water, if you throw a pebble in there, the waters are going to ripple very, very quickly. But if it's the whole ocean, it's not going to really make a dent. And so the bigger that we allow our container to be, the more we're able to hold and the less it's going to bother us. And it's so, in this age of such diversifying, polarizing, that's the word, polarizing ideas and wanting to pit people against one another with the coming from different sides, whether it's right or left or up or down or conservative or progressive or wherever you're coming from, it's really easy to allow the other side or somebody to get under our skin and to shake us and to move us and to threaten our whole well-being. But that is not a sign of what's going on outside of you. That's not a sign. That's not an indication that the people around you need to change. That's an indication that there's work inside of you that gets to be changed, that gets to be shifted. Because when you are able to hold those words, those emotions without being shaken, you are an unstoppable force. Unstoppable force, and nobody can shake you or change you. And there's something so beautiful about that. And that's where that transformation kicks in. And there are milestones to transformation. And there's a whole process of growth. There's a whole process of growth. And I actually have this whole thing, and I'm going to briefly talk about it, I think, right now. It's called the growth process is this messy. It's so messy. It's messy and it's beautiful. and it's not linear. We don't necessarily go from here to here to here. It's like growth goes like this, especially when you're talking about emotional, mental, and spiritual growth. It is fucking messy, and it doesn't necessarily look how we think it would look, and it's easy to stop. It's easy to stop. So here's a really clear example of a messy growth process. So if you remember last year, I had my hair was shorter and I had all this shaved, right? So now it looks like it's already grown out and it's perfect. This is not actually true. This is what is happening. I am growing my hair out. This was all shaved off. I'm growing it out and it is messy and it's annoying because I want it to be faster. I want it to grow faster. I want it to already be the length of this. But it takes time and it's messy and it's slower than I want it to be. And it would be really easy for me to give up and just shave it all off again. Be like, fuck it. I'm just going to shave it off because I can't deal with it. Which I've done a couple times. But this is the longest I've let it grow so far. And I knew it was going to be a pain in the butt to grow out. But that didn't stop me from shaving it in the first place, which is good. It's a good thing for me. And it's easy for me to hide because I have beautiful curly hair. Yes, I know. But that's reality. This is what real growth looks like. It's fucking messy and it's hard and it's challenging and it's going to be amazing. Once it's all grown out and like I'm going to have more hair again and maybe I'll shave it off again. But that's part of growing. Like my invitation to you right now is to be persistent. Keep persevering. Don't stop. Because that's one of the stages in the growth process that I have is persistence. This is the part where it's easy to stop. It would be easy to just shave this all off. It would be easy to say, oh, I've arrived in my transformation. I don't need to grow any further. But that wouldn't benefit me or the people that I work with or the people around me or the world. Because I know for me, my being came here to experience freedom, like learning to be free, and also to grow immensely and to transform myself and people around me. And to stop here would be a detriment to myself and others. So don't stop. It can be really hard. But getting to the other side of the really messy, awful parts, right? Like when I got divorced, I could have stopped and been so distraught about and blame my ex-husband for everything and just be brokenhearted for the rest of my life. I could have chosen that path. I didn't. And it's so much more beautiful to be on the other side of that because now I have this dear friend and we know each other really well. And there's so much beauty in knowing a person. And love comes in all different ways. And just because we're no longer together doesn't mean that love doesn't exist. There's actually, I feel like, a deeper love between us. And just like that has evolved within our relationship with one another, the same is true for myself. But love for myself has grown exponentially. And so my invitation to you is to keep going, persevere, persist, because you get to love yourself more, because you get to experience transformation and growth. So, like, in such a beautiful way, there's joy, there is expansion, there is beauty in all of it, even the messy parts of it. I'm actually so grateful for some of the most messy parts of my life because I'm able to experience this higher height of joy now as a result. We cannot experience the height of joys without experiencing the lows of sorrow. You need the comparison to be able to experience those things. And I am so grateful for both. So keep going. And if you need some support, please don't do this alone. There's no way in hell I could have gone on this journey by myself. I have beautiful friends. I have a therapist. I've had coaches. I've had so much support along the way. And being in containers of growth with coaching and other things has allowed my growth to move exponentially quicker. So if you are in a space that you're feeling a little stuck, you're feeling like this is a really messy part and you're not really sure how to keep going and persevering and you need some support, please reach out. I love supporting people in their transformation process. I love helping people grow and to get out of their own way so that they can be living the life they say they want to be living. So if this is you, please reach out to me, leave a comment below, send me a message. I would be happy to connect with you and see if we would be a good fit to work together. You're doing a great job. No matter where you are in transformation and growth, if it's the super messy part, if it's a high, if it's a low, if you're struggling, if you're experiencing great amounts of joy or all of it at the same time, you're doing a great job. And I'm sending you so much love, you magical being.